Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about a health crisis from the NHS, but I've got no slides, so there won't be any next slides. And that's what it is. NHS England have been quite clear that the climate and ecological emergency is a health crisis. You know, as you came in today, if you're here at this event, your temperature was taken when you came in. If you were 1 degree above your normal temperature, you probably have some signs of a fever, and we're at that point as a planet, you know, and us humans have to kind of, and non-human animals have to deal with that, and we're not the frog in a frying pan who's been quickly heated up and realising, not noticing. Well, no, we are, you know, is that quick change. And if you get above 2 degrees, you're going to end up in an acute hospital like mine, and we have to deal with that. So the NHS, I think, is often seen as dealing with problems when they occur, but is very much committed to trying to avoid problems and deal with things early, and the climate crisis is just as much of that. So whilst hopefully at some point we'll see the back of the current health crisis that's in the media, even last year, the NHS England launched a whole new net zero programme, which all trusts, including Southampton, are committed to. It's in our contract. We've got targets and we have to put plans in place in the next few months. I think 14th of January is my deadline to put together a new net zero programme for the hospital, which is fun. I've been here about 4 months, so no time to rest on that. But you know, that's all hospitals. We're all committed to that. We've got the targets for 2040, which is the sort of scopes 1 and 2, which is kind of aligned to things like the Green City Charter that we're members of as well in Southampton. But also we have this kind of net zero plus NHS target of 2045, which is that next level, all of those scope 3 emissions that people were talking about earlier. And organisations such as ours are kind of looking beyond that, and we're looking at some of the ecological challenges as well, air pollution, all of the other multi-environmental emergencies we're facing as a civilization. So, and this isn't new. You know, I talked about the launch, you know, coming up to year's anniversary of that. Southampton University Hospital has had a large district heating scheme. We've got a couple of CHP units which generate around hopefully, I haven't had any alarms go off, hopefully generating around 4 megawatts right now, which is just over half of our electricity that we use to keep people alive. You know, so we've been doing that for over a decade. We're looking, like all organisations, at ways that we can kind of decarbonise that technology, and you know, we've got some PV on site. We're looking at expanding that and other technologies. But it's a programme that is both being dealt with at the kind of local level. We are one of the, well, probably the largest employer in Southampton. The NHS as a system is the largest employer in the UK. So when people talk about the need for systemic change, I'd say the NHS is probably actually at the forefront in the UK. We've been talking about this a very long time because we are dealing with the outcomes of those things. So we're working at the local level, covering a whole range of things, but also connected with that national programme, and together we'll really kind of drive some quite significant change and work with the kind of local industries to kind of do that, because we're not an island. We need to work with small businesses, large enterprises, all to help deliver that really big, ambitious programme. So some of the things that we've been doing, I kind of mentioned that I haven't been at Southampton Hospital too long, but I've been really pleased since I've been there to kind of look back at what's gone on. We've got a long history of digitisation. I know everyone's probably been forced onto Zoom in the last year and got fatigue from that, but we've been doing digitisation for over a decade. All of those things have been reducing travel for patients and staff, even to the extent of some hospitals have got robots and they're able to kind of zoom in to deliver operations that enables people not to have to travel as far. That programme's constantly evolving and looking for new opportunities to drive that down. I've mentioned that the district heating scheme, that's had a huge impact on what we generate, and the waste heat being used through the CHP, giving us some much cheaper electricity, but also lower carbon, because it might otherwise have just been dumped. And then what we're doing across with transport and other kind of aspects of this. We talked a bit around scope 3. Certainly in the NHS, I think Liz showed a diagram where there was a pie chart. I would say pretty much everywhere, if you truly look at scope 3, you're tripling, maybe quadrupling your footprint as an organisation. That's a huge challenge in the NHS. Staff are a big part of our footprint, but we spend a lot of money and buy a lot of kit and have a lot of medicines that have a lot of embodied carbon and all the packaging and everything. And we've been looking at that for a long time. You know, we don't have a lot of money. We have to maximise and get best value like any public body. We've got 1,200 beds, well, more than 1,200 beds, but we have a big team of people who fix those beds on site to keep those assets going. When things come towards the end of life for us, or if we bring in new technology, say we have a new MRI scanner, I think we've got one coming in soon, those bits of kit are put out for auction through a proper managed auction process that means that they can be reused and have a second life. So we're starting to, we have been taking a circular model to things. We've been looking at how fixable things are when we buy them, because we know they break, they're used so heavily. You know, it's a 24-hour operation running a hospital. So looking at that from the things that you buy, where they go, trying to avoid, do you really need it? If you do, can you fix it? Can you pass it on? Is really core to everything that goes on in NHS, and very much with UHS. I've mentioned travel. It's a big challenge for any organisation. We've got 12,000 staff. We've got countless number of patients and visitors and people coming on site to support us with our operations. You know, we're not in a particularly accessible part of the city if you're coming by rail, but we've done a number of things. We've used a park and ride. We've got bus services that we specifically fund and support to make sure we have access to site, and those remote operations, both digitally but also scattered around. And I think we've got something around 100 to several hundred sites that we do operations and theatre, not so much theatre, but visits with clinicians to try and stop people having to travel in. So, but it is a big challenge there, and how we decarbonise that is going to be quite big over the next few years. I think one of the things that I've mentioned, I talked about the kind of health crisis side of things. We're very aware that, you know, the core programme and that the hospital's doing is dealing with those health issues. Our climate programme is chaired by our Chief Medical Officer. It's very much from a clinical side. We have a specific officer who is our clinical environmental sustainability lead. Not too many trusts have got someone specifically looking at what's going on the clinical side. You know, all of those things that we're doing with medicines, what anaesthetic gases we're using, they've got completely different greenhouse gas potentials if we can channel to different ones or more target the anaesthetic gases, so it's not just being released out when they're using them. All the way through to the air changes we have in the theatres. There's far more air changes we're having to do now. The regs are changing on that, so there's some big challenges there with the estate. But it's very much looking forward. Climate is an intergenerational issue. You know, I was born in a hospital in Hampshire. The parts per million in the atmosphere was just shy of 350. I'm now, you know, kids born today in Southampton Hospital, we're talking 420. I don't particularly want those kids to look back in 40 years and think, there's another 70 parts per million. We're miles over those kind of targets that we need to get. And we certainly don't want to be dealing with the issues caused by the even more frequent weather events, that mean we're going to end up with more patients and more resources, making it even more worse. So it's a massive problem, and I think there's nowhere more acutely aware of it than the NHS, because we're dealing with all of those things. So it's a kind of challenge to everyone, but it's, you know, as I kind of mentioned, we've got lots of things going on. We're massive. We spend a lot of money. We can be a force for change, both locally and nationally. But it's in partnership with everyone else. So it's the best way to work with us. Okay, thanks.